And welcome back. This is your man Warrior. This is another patron roster review. This is Sammaku from Finnish Lightside Forces, and Sammaku's been playing for about 9 months, a little over 9 months, so less than 1 year, and is a dolphin, and really has an affinity, obviously, for the dark side, both with ships and arena. Now, wants to know about which are the next Zetas he should be focused on. What characters should we be gear 12ing, or which ones should we just leave at gear 11, because that's kind of where he takes them now. And then what ships should he be using or looking at in the future, and then some Sith raid teams. Now, if you look at his stats, he is only 1.4 million GP, so the Sith raid is kind of a way off for him. There's a lot to do, but being a dolphin, he should be able to hyper focus and get there relatively soon, 6 months or less, and he should be able to start making some decent contributions. Now, we're going to look at ships first, and he's using Tarkin, and that is fine. He's got an extra star on Tarkin over the Chimera, which is why he gets an extra reinforcement, so that's why he's using it. He's got Biggs, TIE Advanced, and the Imperial TIE Fighter, and that is cool as well. I'm going to suggest the next team you should evolve into. It's more of a long-term, long thought process team. You can use the existing team until your team that I'm going to suggest is ready, but you can continue to use the Executrix for damage. And then, of course, your tank is going to be Houndstooth. Now, you told me yourself you're actually going to go focus on Scoundrels next. You're almost there. You're on First Order and then moving to Scoundrels. And so Scoundrels are great everywhere in the game. They're really, really good after the rework and the additional adds of new characters. And so definitely, I would focus on Scoundrels like your idea is. And with that, you're going to be focused on Bosk primarily, and his ship for ships, and him for all of the reasons why you would want Scoundrels. So he is going to be your tank. Right now, a lot of people can probably blast through it. You're going to want to get both him up to a minimum of gear 11, so you can unlock his crew power for the ship at max, and then you're going to want to continue to farm the ship. The good news is the ship node has both the ship and Jango Fett, so you're going to get another really, really good Scoundrel / bounty hunter in the mix when you do this. Now, the TIE Advanced is great in the reinforcements because it can come out and just devastate, but I would suggest you have it in your initial 3 lineup for the additional damage and target lock, so you have a little bit more control. And then I would actually suggest your Ghost in the front 3. Now, you do need a little bit more work on gear for these characters, and the gear on these guys is terrible, and I know you're probably thinking, I want to be done with the Phoenix. I did them for my Thrawn, and now I'm done. But the Ghost is truly one of the best ships in the game, top 5 in my opinion, and the reason is for what it does to the opponent's ships. It reduces their ability to apply debuffs. That is a big deal. It also goes stealth, calls an assist, as well as the ability for it to do an AoE. That is important, especially when you're going against ships that stealth, which happens quite frequently. So I do recommend you get these guys up and leveled up. Now, in your backup, my guess is you're probably using the Phantom 2 for the purposes of its reinforcement to flood the field, getting in 2 ships back to back. And this ship looks pretty good. You've got, Chopper at 10 and Ezra at 11, so that's good. Sabine needs the stars and the gear to gear 11. I hate to say it, but that is a really, really good target lock ability that you can have, and it also can create speed down and other really cool things against Empire. So from my perspective, I would finish this ship, but you've got to be able to do that by getting Chopper to 11 and Sabine to gear 11. Now, you can continue to use Biggs Darklighter. Just use him in the reinforcements, and then you'll want to max his reinforcement out, so when he comes in, he's going to get his reinforcement bonuses. But Biggs Darklighter would be a secondary tank. It would work really well if once the first tank dies to have a second tank to come in. He's going to immediately be able to call an assist, and that's going to help take down a ship that maybe you're kind of on the verge of taking down. I would suggest, since you don't have Cassian's U-Wing at all, I mean, it's level 1 characters, to the right of it is TIE Reaper. TIE Reaper, you've got both of the guys pretty well off, looking really, really good. And this thing dispels, plus under Tarkin, it does a lot of damage even on basic, plus it can provide turn meter to the capital ships. So really, really important that you use the TIE Reaper so you have a dispeller in your back back lineup. And for number 4, the last slot, I would suggest a damage dealer, either the TIE Silencer, or you could bring in someone like Poe Dameron's X-Wing, something like that that brings it in. Now, that's all I'm going to say about ships. I think you're doing pretty well, and the ships I just mentioned are the ones I would suggest, but I do always suggest that people focus on the geos. I know that you're probably thinking, well, it's too late, the geos have come and gone, but that is incorrect. They will always be relevant for one reason and one reason alone. They vary your ability to change up the ships you have, and every single mode of the game requires pretty much ships nowadays. Territory Wars has ships, Territory Battles has ships, Territory or Grand Arena has ships at times. And of course, you got to donate some ships at times, and so to be a good guildmate, you're going to want to be able to have them to donate. But even bigger than that, you can clear the entire fleet nodes, all of them very, very easily with these ships. And these ships make for a really, really great team. In fact, they're the most synergistic, high damage team in the game. The top 3 ships, in my opinion, especially for somebody starting out. And so to not even have any involvement in them is kind of sad to see, because the ships are extremely easy to get, and all of the characters are relatively easy to get, and 2 of the 3 characters are relatively easy to farm. Sun Fact farming is terrible, but he's a tank at the highest end that you'll still be able to use in Grand Arena and Territory Wars. Now we're going to move on to heroic Sith raid teams, and there are 4 teams that I really feel like you need to develop next. These are going to be high priority teams, and you said, you know, you wanted to work on Bounty Hunter, and they are in that top 4 teams for your Sith raid. But Jedi are in there as well. Old Republic are actually in there as well, so you can get Revan. And where you're at in the game now, it actually makes more sense for you to go for Revan immediately, because you have access to all characters that give you Revan. So there's no reason why you wouldn't want to get the Revan team for the Sith raid. It can do 12 million, but 8 million on auto easy. So there's no reason why you wouldn't want to go for a team like that. It's kind of like Night Sisters, who are amazing as well. So Night Sisters are up there as well. So I know because of ships and because of your desired focus, but Bounty Hunters are going to be your first priority. So I would say, yes, you can focus on the Bounty Hunters, and that can be your primary focus. But I would suggest to you, since you are a Dolphin, to actually focus on 2 factions simultaneously. That's right, have 2 rows of favorites and work on all of them. Have a primary target and a secondary target. What that means is if you are farming for one particular character and it conflicts with another, always go with your primary target first before the one that conflicts with it. But Bounty Hunters can be your primary, but you really need to also go for Old Republic, and very specifically the Old Republic that you need for Revan. That is going to be Jolie Bindo, Bastila Shan, T3, Mission, and Zalbar. Now, Mission and Zalbar combination is like the new age Chirrut Bays combo. They're like amazing, or the Biggs and Wedge, or any of those dual combos, but it's the best dual combo currently in the game for PvP, such as Territory Wars, Grand Arena. Those 2 guys' characters you should automatically want and desire to level up. And then Bastila Shan and Jolie Bindo are in the most overpowered, you know, Revan team available, and also in the Sith raid team, and so definitely want those. And then T3 is just an absolute necessity because he's required for Revan, but you could take him to 7 stars, gear 6 or 7, and let the rest of the team carry the weight if you don't want to put any more energy into him for now. But I highly recommend you hyper focus on Old Republic, since you can access every character and they're all free to play farmable. If I was starting off now, like I am with my free to play account, I can't access a lot of these characters yet, so it's not good of me to focus on that team because it makes no sense yet. But for you, where you're at, it makes complete sense. And if it was my personal account, I would actually focus on Old Republic over the Bounty Hunters. The Bounty Hunters are great, and you already have them developed somewhat, and so I would actually go ahead and work on Old Republic and get them up. But my suggestion to you is to work on Bounty Hunters and the Old Republic at the exact same time. Now, we talked about bounty hunters in Old Republic, and I would say that the Old Republic is your primary target, with bounty hunters being your secondary, but you can flip-flop that as your priority dictates. However, for Sith Raid, if you don't consider Night Sisters, then you are in the miss for sure, and Night Sisters are easy relatively to get at where you are in the game. Mother Talzin, that by this point in the game, you should be able to do the event that allows for you to get Mother Talzin shards, but you do need to develop Night Sisters to get those 10 shards a month. Plus, she's on a node that's, I think, on level 7. You should be able to access it by now and farm Mother Talzin as well, which is amazing because back in the day, you couldn't farm Mother Talzin, but you can now. And then you, of course, need the zombie. You need Oldaka and Asajj Ventress, and you've got Asajj and Oldaka 7 stars. And then my suggestion, if you're going to use it for the Sith Raid, is Talia because of her healing capabilities. But if you want to have a more versatile team for like PvP and be able to use it in Territory Wars and Grand Arena, Night Sister Spirit is, in my opinion, better for the PvP aspects than Talia, but Talia is better than the Spirit in raid aspects. That is my opinion. So you'll have to decide between those two which you would like to go for. But Night Sisters should be your primary focus. Once you're done with your Old Republic and Bounty Hunters, you should then move on to Night Sisters. If it was my account, Old Republic would probably be done first, and then I would actually skip Bounty Hunters for Night Sisters, simply because Old Republic gets you Revan, Revan gets you 10 million in the raid, Night Sisters gets you 10 million in the raid. There's 20 million right there, and that is, in my opinion, what you're shooting for. Bounty Hunters are great, and they're good for Chewie event, plus they're good for getting their ships and then getting the Millennium Falcon. That is important as well. But those two things are very, very end game, and you are still relatively beginning to mid game because you're only 9 months in. So with that said, Night Sisters definitely have to be third priority at a minimum, and those are the characters I would farm. Then I would move to Jedi, and the reason is they can do a solid amount of damage, of course, in the raid. And once you have the Old Republic team, you can then focus on Revan, and once you have Revan, you can then, you know, put him in with Ezra Bridger and your General Kenobi and, you know, lots of other good characters. You should by now have Jolie Bindo and Bastila Shan, because I suggested them first in Old Republic, and so you'll have 5 really good characters. Grandmaster Yoda has to be your damage dealer, so he has to be developed up. You got to get his 7th star, and then of course level him up. General Kenobi and Grandmaster Yoda are your top 2 priorities right now in Jedi, but I put them down a little on the list because you definitely want to hyper focus on the Old Republic. Now, you've got 4 Gear 12 characters, and they're actually, one's a hero's journey and 3 are legendary characters, and that is exactly what I would say. There are, you know, like 12 hero's journey / legendary characters, or 14 now, I think, in the game. All of them deserve Gear 12. They're really all amazing characters once you get them and unlock them. The other thing is, anyone you're using in Arena, you need every single ounce of you know, gear to make them viable. So I would highly recommend your Arena team be taken to Gear 12. And then for any of your Sith Raid teams, eventually you want them to Gear 12. Now take them to Gear 10/11 for viability, and then you can move on to the next faction, get the factions unlocked and leveled up to 7 stars, and to Gear, you know, Gear 10 and 11. And then once you have those 4 teams I suggested, Night Sisters, Old Republic, Jedi, and Bounty Hunters, then you can start to hyper focus on taking them all to Gear 12 eventually. But Sith Raid teams deserve Gear 12, but they're a second priority to your Arena team. And then always, 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 Heroes, Journeys, and Legendary characters definitely deserve their Gear 12. Now, we've talked about a lot of factions, and we've talked about a lot of what to do with gear, but the last thing is Zetas. You did want to know about Zetas, and I'm going to suggest out of the priority list, because we talked about Old Republic and Bounty Hunters, and of course with Old Republic, your Zetas are going to be a kind of a secondary priority to the one Bounty Hunter Zeta that I suggest, and the one Bounty Hunter Zeta I suggest is Bossk's leadership. It brings about a durability to the team that is unparalleled. Really, it's awesome. You definitely want to consider Bosk's lead. Now, the team as it sits isn't quite ready yet for a Zeta, but you might as well slap it on since bounty hunters are in your #1 priority / #2 priority list, and you should be simultaneously farming them like I mentioned with the Old Republic. In Old Republic, you're absolutely not ready for Zetas yet, but Revan deserves all 3 of his Zetas once you unlock him, so make sure that's important. Jolie Bindo is one of those characters. He's just worthless for the most part without his Zeta. With his Zeta, he's exceptionally overpowered. He's just one of those characters that you have to do the Zeta on, or he's really a waste of time. So because I highly recommend Jolie, he would actually be one of the top Zetas for Old Republic, and this will help you in your Jedi team as well. Now, in this team as well, in the Old Republic, eventually down the road, you would want Missions Zeta as well as Zalbar's Zeta. So you've got Jolie Bindo as a highest priority, obviously after Revan, and then Mission Zeta, and then eventually down the road Zalbar Zeta. But Old Republic should be at the forefront of your mindset, but think about anything that is Jedi and Old Republic as more viable because it's usable in multiple teams. As far as Jedi, the only Zeta right now I would highly recommend would be Grandmaster Yoda, and we're talking about battle meditation, and you don't need to do his leadership. So Grandmaster Yoda battle meditation, it just drops the cooldown 1 and stuff, and that really helps him use it more frequently, which is kind of a big deal. May not seem like a big Zeta, but this is definitely on your list of to-dos. And since I suggested Night Sisters and Jedi together as dual, factions to focus on, in this I would highly recommend double Zetaing Asajj Ventress, both for the lead and for her unique. It's going to really help you. As far as the rest of the Night Sisters, when you get Mother Talzin, eventually down the road at some point you'll want both of her lead and her unique as well, because there are different reasons to run Mother Talzin over Asajj and vice versa, so that will help. So you've got about 4 Zetas potential in Night Sisters. You've got about 3 plus Revan, so 5 in the Old Republic that you should be considering. You've got Bosk lead, of course, and then Yoda in Jedi. You've got quite a few to now think about, but of all of them I just discussed, the one that is basically the most ready to go is Bosk lead, and you did say you wanted to focus on bounty hunters next. So that should be your next Zeta. All right, Sammaku, you are doing really well. For the most part, you're in the top 50 in ships, in arena. You're having fun with the characters you want to have fun with, and for being a light dolphin, being in the top 200, top 300 is not bad at all. And you have now a focus for ships for the Houndstooth, Ghost, and the TIE Advanced in your front 3 with Executrix, but you could use Chimera, of course, as well. And then make sure you're Gear 12ing all of those Legendary and Heroes Journeys, as well as your Arena team, or anyone that you're going to eventually use in the Sith Raid. And then for Zetas, you're kind of far off on a lot of them, so make sure that you're being very stingy with giving them out, but Bosk lead would probably be the first, keeping in mind that Yoda's almost there as well, so you could put that one on Yoda, and then eventually Jolie and some of the other Old Republic, as well as Asajj Ventress being more of a main priority for the Night Sisters. I hope this has helped focus you for anyone that is kind of a dolphin who's running around close to that 1-year mark. Hopefully this speaks to you as to what would be the priority at that period of time. And as always, if you have some suggestions, leave them in the comments down below, and keep your gaming on. Warrior out.